Your career can stop scaling years before you notice it, and most engineers realize it too late. Because nothing visibly fails, you still earn more. Your responsibilities still increase. Your role still evolves. But the trajectory quietly slows down anyway. And most people mistake that plateau for growth for years. That's what makes career plateaus dangerous. They rarely feel dramatic. Modern stagnation usually feels functional. Your income still grows. Your work still matters. Your career still looks stable from the outside, which means there's no obvious moment where people recognize their trajectory already changed direction. And that's the real danger, because compounding careers and stable careers can look almost identical for years. And in tech, that effect becomes even harder to detect. At first, career growth feels expansive. New skills create disproportionate movement. New opportunities change positioning quickly. Small improvements create visible acceleration. Everything feels scalable. But eventually, that relationship changes. Additional effort creates smaller movement. Experience still accumulates, but trajectory stops accelerating at the same rate. And once that happens, many careers quietly become horizontal. Not inactive, horizontal. That distinction matters, because horizontal careers still feel productive. Activity continues, meetings continue, problems continue, deadlines continue, which means movement still exists. But expansion quietly disappears underneath. And over time, many engineers confuse sustained activity with continued growth, even though the system no longer rewards their effort proportionally, because career growth is not determined only by effort, it's determined by scalability. And scalability depends heavily on the layer where someone operates. That's the structural mechanism most engineers underestimate. Execution-heavy layers reward improvement aggressively early on. But eventually, execution becomes compressible. The system can distribute it, standardize it, replicate it across larger groups, scale it through process instead of scarcity, which means additional execution gradually creates less leverage over time. Even when the work remains important, even when the people are highly capable, leverage behaves differently, because leverage scales through influence, positioning, decision proximity, and structural impact. Execution improves output, leverage changes trajectory, and eventually, that difference becomes enormous. Because engineers optimized for execution often continue increasing effort inside structures that no longer scale proportionally, which creates one of the most dangerous illusions in modern careers: high activity without meaningful expansion. And that illusion becomes stronger over time, because improvement inside a non-scalable structure does not restore compounding. It simply increases optimization inside the same layer. And eventually, that optimization changes identity. People slowly become adapted to maintaining systems instead of expanding trajectory. That adaptation is subtle. At first, it looks like professionalism, predictability, reliability, consistency. But over time, many careers stop prioritizing optionality and start protecting stability instead. Safer projects, safer trajectories, safer positioning, which feels rational short-term. But long-term, that pattern slowly reduces expansion potential. Because optionality compounds, stability preserves. Optionality increases future movement. Stability protects current positioning. And many careers quietly trade one for the other without realizing it. That's why long-term stagnation rarely feels emotional at first. It feels responsible, which makes it extremely difficult to detect while it's happening. And once optionality disappears, career acceleration becomes much harder to recover, because the system no longer sees you as someone positioned for leverage. It sees you as someone optimized for execution continuity. That's why career plateaus become increasingly difficult to escape over time. Not because people become less intelligent, because the structure slowly reshapes their incentives, their trajectory, and eventually, their professional identity. And most engineers never see the exact moment their growth stopped compounding. Nothing collapses. The scaling simply disappears. Now, final verdict. Most engineers do not plateau because they stop improving. They plateau because their careers slowly stop scaling while still appearing successful. And once a trajectory becomes horizontal, years of effort can continue accumulating without creating meaningful expansion anymore. If you want the full system behind this, it's in the description.